We are recording. So if there's anything we say today that you forget, ask me, but you can also refer back to this, post this video later. Your last name? Cooper. Welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Once we hit 8, we'll get started. So it's the first day, and the a little bit crappy. So I expect to get a couple of late people in. What's your last name?
Barford.
Right? You are accounted for. Well, it's 8. Like I said, I'm going to slow to show up. It's the first day. It happens. So the first thing I'll mention, because I don't get into anything important yet, we'll wait for people to go up. Speaking of the weather being crappy today, make sure every day you check your emails and or Facebook and or the announcements before you come in. And make it. I was dead set on making it, though, because I was almost snowed in. My kids have school. Luckily, my wife got the day off. Had this been a slightly different day, I wouldn't have been able to make it. So I would have sent an announcement saying, hey, I can't make it. We're going to have class online. Last minute once, but let's be prepared for it just in case. How many of you have to drive to get here? I see, especially for you guys. You have to drive over 30 minutes. Oh, man. How far do you guys have to drive?
40.
40? One way? How about you?
It's about like 30 to 40.
30 or 40? How about you?
35.
Yeah, see. I don't want to waste your time having you come in at 8 in the morning. So, yes, definitely check, make sure that we're actually having class physically on campus before you come in. What's your last name? Gotcha. So just to be sure, because I have a couple of names missing, and I may have said my glasses. Do we have somebody with the last name of Mullins? Someone with the last name of Kave, K-A-V-E. Last name Rogers. Last name Talbert. Hughes. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're from the first. All it takes is me to the wrong button, and that's Samuel. First name Samuel. Tasha's online. All right. So yeah, everybody's accounted for, and it's 8:02. So yeah, let's get started. Like I said, before you come in, make sure we're having class online. Another thing I recommend, if you can, is to bring your own computer, because technology does not. I have a camera right there that usually shows the screen with a microphone. One of those things are working. Luckily, I brought in my own computer, so I was able to now record this. When I first got here, I couldn't get the projector to work. And if that's the case, right, if you ever come in and the projector's not working, a blank screen's not going to do us any good. So if that were the case, and the projector's not working, then I would get on my own computer and I would give the lecture. You see it here. If you were to log it online, you could see it there. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying you have to bring your it would help. I always say, it's good to have a plan B. So any questions so far before we officially jump into the syllabus? That's all we're doing today. Today's syllabus day. Friday we'll actually start the course. We'll start chapter 1. But here we go. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, your first official assignment, read at least my information. Every syllabus contains required to give you at state. So at least read my, and I'll show you where that ends. Anyway, this is Principles of Biology. So this is a non-majors biology. If you are a biology major, you should contact me after this class today, and we should figure out here. It could be okay, but it could also not be. Figure that out. You can see here's the email address. There we go. Anyway, here's my email address. Speaking of which, I said check your email before you come in. keep an eye. I'm torn between not giving enough information. So I'm giving you announcements, emails. You could say like, hey, could you give me announcements, but they have more information per announcement. More announcements with fewer information per announcement. Does that make sense? I'm here for you. So let me know how you prefer things. All right. That being said, also, as you can see, my name is Vasilios Dianello. Weird name. You know, you can call me whatever. Or Professor Vasilios or whatever. I'll know that you're talking to me. If you say something like, I know, Captain Kangaroo, I'm not going to know unless you tell me beforehand. But yes, call me with and I'll know to listen for it. This is my phone number for my office, 766-3125. Call it anytime you want, literally. That number is forwarded to my cell phone, and I keep my cell phone on me. When I'm asleep or family time, I turn my cell phone off. So I don't care if it's 3 a.m. and you're studying. You're like, what is the answer to this question? I need his help. Call me. Most likely at 3 a.m, I'm going to be asleep, and I won't get it, and I'll miss the call, won't talk. But if I happen to be awake, sober, I'll answer it. It's your time to be awake, right? Anyway, I will answer it, right? So call me, disturb me. If I'm awake and able to take the call, I will. I don't think it's all at any time because who knows what your schedule is. About the phone situation, you already have my email address. Also, if you start typing my name, it'll pop up. Also, technically, I have 2 emails. Start typing my name, and you see a version of that. That's okay too. That's my student email address, and it will get forwarded to my professor email address, so to speak. Any questions so far? All right. As you've noticed, I am testing this online, and you can find the link for that right here. It might change one day. Sometimes the link stops working and lets you know. But now that is the link that works. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you can't come into class, use that link. That make sense? Speaking of which, we're going to talk about that when we get to the attendance portion of the syllabus. And now that I finally talked about that, we do have one person. So for that person online or watching this video later, to attendance/participation points for today, you're going to send me an email that has words on them. And send it after we're done with this whole lecture. And the first is video. So right now, who's online, when we're done with this lecture, again, you're going to send me a list of words, and that word is video. And actually, send me the email too if you got it. A little bit of attendance extra. I'll be giving words, and you can send them at the end. If you're here physically, those words will give you a little bit of extra credit. For right now, if you're live or watching the video later, you need to send me those words to get your points. Anyway. All right. Whenever we meet on this link, unless you have your camera on, you don't need to have your microphone on. You just need to be able to see and hear me. I don't necessarily be able to see and hear you. So any questions about that? All right. Officially, every Monday, Wednesday. So Monday and Wednesday, I'm there from 9 to 10. I'm in lab, which we'll talk about later. And then on Fridays, I'm here until noon. Those are my official office hours. To be, again, physically, obviously in my office. I will also be at this. If you want to visit me for office hours, but don't feel like in Hamlin Hall, you can, again, use that link and meet me online. And I'm going to make sure you understand what office hours are. At least for me. Excuse me. This is when you are getting to find me, right? That's just when you don't need to schedule a time. He's like, I need to see him. I know I can find him at that time. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean that's the only time you can meet with me. It means that's when you're guaranteed to find me. If you want to meet me Tuesday at 2 p.m., send me an email. We'll schedule. Out of these hours, it just requires scheduling. Those are just the hours where you're guaranteed to drop into my office or drop in online and find me. Any questions about that? Lectures, as you all know, because you're here, good job. On 8 a.m. when it's freezing outside, I'm proud of all. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 to 8:50 a.m. You need to be on time. You get partial credit on time, or if you leave her section of the syllabus. Credit hour course because we, and then 1 credit hour of lab. You can your first assignment syllabus, but all this stuff I'm really going to cover when we start chapter 1 on Friday. Objectives of the course, and we'll talk about that once we dive into the textbook. Speaking of which, book, it's called Concepts of Biology, and it is free. You can find it right here. So there's the link. Share this link in other manner too, but yeah, that's where you can find it. It's free. It's a good resource. I highly recommend it. This is a 100 course. So I teach out of the textbook. You're responsible for reading the textbook. My job is just to explain what's in the textbook. And speaking of which, this is a relatively new thing. So this is the second semester this new textbook. Prior to that, I was using an older textbook, 2016, and I've been doing this a lot. So kind of like I'm still transitioning into the new textbook, which is in a slightly different order. So you might be a little bit thrown off in some of the lectures, and that is why. So I apologize. Any questions about the textbook? Again, no excuse not to get it, right? Get it, read it. Speaking of which, that is your Friday. Read chapter 1 of the textbook. Because again, I'm just here to explain concepts. It's your job to learn them and talk about them. Match with what you raise your hand and say, hey, can you explain that in a different way? Or that other thing. About the textbook. All right, now the stuff most people care about, the points, right? The point of this course is 1, and it breaks down this way. There's something called independent work. It's basically a written assignment. It's worth 1. So 1 easy, but it kind of is easy. And again, I'm going to talk. But whether it's easy or not, this assignment, this 100 letters, points, this full letter grade is completely my test, right? If you mess up, you can just keep turning stuff. So there's no reason you shouldn't. We'll talk about it in a second, and at that point, I'll take. Let's move forward. It's attendance / participation. So again, a full letter grade. So that's 2 letter grades that are completely do is show up. Speaking of which, let's talk about how that works. All you have to, so for all of you who showed up here today online, in person, you got full credit, right? As you heard, and I'm going to say it again for number 2, if you show up online, you're going to have to jump through different. So for today, for those people, the one person who's online or whoever's watching this video later, the second word you're going to need to send me. And that second is participation. So lecture on, that's how you'll get your credit. And the rest will send me the email. The second word is participate, extra credit. But anyway, yes, that's generally how it works. You get the points. I say generally speaking is because sometimes there's this semester I had a guy who was on his phone the whole time. It didn't really bother me necessarily, disrespectful, and he didn't bother because usually he wasn't like listening to it loud. He had his earbuds in times really loudly, and that was the only time I would ask him to turn it down because it was just distracting to his class. That person, right? He's the person actually responsible for this change. Master, make sure you're paying attention to me because, again, like I said, today you're all good. But if we ever day where I see just somebody just staring at the time, then that day I may say something like, all right, I need you all to send me these words at the end of class to get your points. Does that make sense? You're good. But generally speaking, just showing. And then who knows? Maybe there'll be some. I'll announce it first. Like if you show up Friday, I might say, hey, to get the attendance point, I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to mark down if you talk back or not. Does that make sense? Some sort of different way of getting the points. But again, generally speaking, if you show up like I just did, then you'll get your points. Another thing to note is 44 times. Time we meet is worth 2.4 points. So let's do 44 is 105.6, right? And I told you already that slash attendance is only worth 100. So it's already built in where you can lose some points and still get full credit. So if one day you find yourself you can't come in and you can't find and you don't watch the video, which is, you can see there's a lot of options to get your points. If for some reason you don't do that, you can still get full credit and still miss a couple of days. Okay. But again, even if you miss a day, you can still watch the video. Like one person is right now, or the video later, assuming it works. So for you not to be able to easily get your 100 points for attendance. Questions about that? All right. And again, sorry, one more thing before we move forward. Another reason it's called got participant attendance. An excused absence. You've got to be gone next Wednesday to go to that's an excused absence. Attendance points, you still need to watch the video, or your participation point. So your absence may be financial aid officer or in trouble at all with me. But video. Okay. Exams, we'll talk a little bit more portion of the syllabus, but generally speaking, it's 500 points worth of exams. So half the course is based on exams. The first 3 exams, 50 questions. Well, I'll get that. I'll get to there. Anyway, the final is 200 points, and the other 3 are worth 100 apiece. And we'll talk about those when we get to that portion of the syllabus. And I'll ask you if you have questions at that point. But for now, we'll just keep moving forward. The laboratory component. When we meet for lab next week, then we'll really talk about these 300 points and how that works. But for now, just know it's worth 300 points, so that's 3 letter grades. Does that make sense? Okay. So the one thing that you really need to know about lab right now, for now, until we meet next week, is that you have to be there, right? For lecture, there's options. Video later. But for lab, you absolutely have to be there. If you're not there, your lab. Even if somehow the data from somebody, and you did, if you're not there, you won't get the points. So any questions? Oh yeah, speaking of which, if you're, then you're going to meet me next Monday in H205, and if you need Monday, H205, 10 a.m., and if you're section 2, meet Wednesday in H205 at 2 p.m. I mean, question? No, okay, sorry. Yeah. And anyway, I'm going to remind you between now and then. As a matter of fact, again, like earlier, make sure you check your emails a lot. Soon, probably today, I'm going to reshare the lab. You can already see the lab. It's online. But I'm going to share it with you again. Actually, I'll just show you really quickly. If you go online here, see right here, Lab 1. So go ahead and start looking at it. I'm going to talk more about this on Friday. But if you open it up, make yourself a copy, and all the instructions are how to do that. Make yourself a copy, and on Sunday, this is your 3rd assignment. I'm sorry to be giving you assignments right away, but the pre-lab is due. So you'll need to read, answer a few easy questions right here. Answer a few easy proofs that you read the lab, and that's that, right? So that's due on Sunday. Reminders between now and, but that's where you find it. Any questions about lab so far?
Kind of like how you would do online class. You would just answer the questions on a copied.
How many of you have had my online class? This might be a little bit different for you. You asked that. It's a good reminder. So for this, you're not gonna save the document and then upload it, right? And this one, I might as well just bring it back up. And that's it, because when you read these instructions, this is partially what I'm about to tell you. Okay, so you're going to make yourself your own copy. And the way you just go up here to share, you click on that and then share it with me and give me editing access. You're not going to upload anything. I'm just going to have access to your document. That make sense? That way, as you're doing it, if you make mistakes, I can click on it and give you feedback. So before you even turn in something wrong, if you shared it with me, I can look at it and say, oh, before you might want to change this. On the right track, I can leave a comment and say, hey, I see where you're going, but right, did you correct answers? So great question. Did I answer it? Okay. So yeah, that's how that's going to work. The same document, lab in the lab, you're going to share it with me. If I recommend as you start, but if you want to, you can share it when you're ready for me to grade it. But until the due date, nothing is set in stone, right? So again, if you're doing this thing and you shared the document with me and you come in here and you answer this incorrectly, and I said it's due on Sunday, right? So if you answer it incorrectly and I'm working on Saturday from home and I read this and you wrote it wrong, I can just leave a little comment, right? I can highlight it, leave a comment and say, hey, just so you know, you're kind of going on the wrong track and nudge you towards the right track. All of that before the due date. So again, there's no reason why, as long as you get started early, you shouldn't get perfect grades, at least for the pre-lab. Question. Anything else about the labs?
Your labs are always due on Sunday?
Sunday, yes. Great question. They're always due on Sunday and the lab due on Friday. And this is all information that I planned on giving you next week. So I don't mind giving it to you now. If you're like, oh, he's giving me a lot of information, don't worry about that. I'll start giving you right now for a little again when we meet next week. Any other questions about lab?
Why next week even like under this week's stuff?
Correct. Yeah. Question. And I'll also make sure those things are very clear, because sometimes the way this is set up, this is an in-person class, but we had to set it online so you could have all your assignments and things like that. So it's a little bit, it doesn't flow the way we flow. But again, I'll make sure you know what's due, when it's due. You'll be getting emails and reminders verbally in class. For labs, the grading is quite easy, because it's a 1,000 point course. It's just every 100 points is a different letter grade, right? 900 and up for an A, 8 to 9 for a B, 7 to 9 for a C, so on. So I will say this though, to do this, but it happens every semester. Your grade is your grade. Don't boost your grade or round it up. If you're a little bit, if you have a 698 point, right? That means you have a D. As you'll see as we go throughout the semester, you have plenty of opportunities to give your grade. How many of you have seen my email so far? And if you haven't seen my email, check your email. There's a whole document for extra credit. There's tons out there. It's not worth much because there's so much. Like if you just go out there and do these things, and the purpose of the extra credit is 1, to boost your grade, obviously, and 2, to help give you some practice with this biology stuff, some of it, and 3, the other stuff, get you interested in it. Because I'm going to be teaching you, to be honest with you, what most people consider the boring stuff of biology. Biology is fascinating, but we don't talk about that fascinating stuff. We won't be talking about dinosaurs and sharks and things like that. We'll be talking about how cells, extra credit hopefully makes it a little bit more. Scale. Any questions about the grading scale? You will have access to your own grades, WVSU online. I don't know what it looks like on your end, plus the new version. They updated it over the semester break. But yeah, your grade somewhere. And if you need help finding it, let me know. Meet me online or in person, and we can figure it out together. But yeah, you'll have access to your grades. Here we go. Let's talk about this. Exams, that's the first thing we said. The first 3 exams are not comprehensive. So we'll cover about 3 chapters, depending on the unit. But it's usually about 3 chapters. It's usually about 50 questions, and it's usually about 50 minutes to answer those 50. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm not sure how we're working some issues with Moodle. in a perfect world, I've had my class online. In a perfect world where you'll have all week to take the exam. Like at some point in this 1 week window, you'll be required to go online, open the exam, and you'll have 50 minutes to take those 50 questions. Okay, that's what I'm shooting for. The case scenario, you're going to come into class, bring your computers, and then an online multiple choice. We're going to take it together, even though you're online. All right. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't want to whole lecture day. We're like, all right, this is the day you take the test. I prefer it to be where you have all week to take the test. Okay. That being said, study guides, you can find them here on WVSU Online. Here, again, chapter 1. Where is it at? Study guide right there. Study guide, chapter 1. So those study guides, because this is a 100 level course, that's what I use to write the exams. I take those questions, and those are your exam. So if you do the study guides, with very few exceptions, there are a few that don't come from the study guides, but entirely all the questions will come from the study guides. So do the study guides, get your extra credit, and get prepared for the exam. Because when I'll get back, I say this is how this question is wrong. This question could be correct, so on and so forth. So again, if you do the guides, you'll be prepared for the exams and you'll get extra. Any questions? The first 3. So again, the first 3 exams, study guides. Then at the end, we'll have the big exam, the final exams, twice the points. It's worth your points. And half of it will be based on the first 3 exams. So those first 3 verbatim, use the words, and I'm going to copy them and paste them into the final. And that's going to make up half of your final. You with me so far? Verbatim. So the questions you saw earlier in the final. So your first 3 your first exams are a great study guide. And the second, about 1 will come from the new material. So the last 3 chapters of the course will also be on the final. Does that make sense? Half cumulative, half new information. All right. And obviously, as we get there, you reminders like, all right, here's when the exam is due. Here's how you need to prepare for it. Here's what's going to be. These they don't seem to understand this. If you wait to work on this, then you're going to get confused and forget and it'll be horrible for you. So remember, work is worth 100 points out of 1,000. It's a full letter grade. It's just a written assignment. You just papers. You read through there to get the full description. But here's how you'll do it. Well, first of all, you can watch this videos showing you how I calculate the grades. You're going to go to Google. Same lab, right? So with a lab, you open it up, you share it with me. Same here. You go to blank document, name it whatever you're going to name it, and share it with me. Lab, right? So you start writing whatever you're going to write and just hit share and share with me. That's how you turn it in. So what do you want to anything to do with biology? And that's up to you. And that's why I love this assignment, because again, I teach admittedly the not so exciting stuff about biology. A lot of it is not. So the purpose of this assignment, this independent work assignment, is you want to write about. And I give you a few examples, and you can read through this on your own, as you should. But really quickly, there's basic types of papers you can write. There's one where you just answer a question. So how many of you are student athletes? So you guys have a lot of you. Wow. So you might have been in the locker room, like, why does that dude smell so bad every time, right? So you might ask yourself, why do people smell after they work out, right? Not everyone does, but some people do, right? I was working out. The guy in the locker next to me smells really bad. I was wondering why people smell bad after they work out. I looked it up, and according to this source, it's because of these bacteria. And that's it. That could be your paper. That's only a few sentences. Now, granted, this is where people get confused a little bit. The point value paper is based on how long it is, right? points you have, but that doesn't matter because I want you to be in charge. If you like writing long papers, papers that are worth a lot of points. If you like writing short papers, obviously the shorter they are, the less and the more you have to turn in. That's okay, right? Because it's however you want to do it. So that's what I recommend. Do it as long as you want. That's what I was saying. That's one of the type of papers you can do is where you just answer a question and answer it. And as a matter of fact, throughout lecture, I'll usually pose a question. On class, so we don't get into this depth, and then I'll pose a question for you. And if you want, you can write a paper about it. And again, your paper can be as short as just a couple sentences. I was wondering this, I looked it up, and this is the answer. That makes sense? Okay. That's the first type of paper. Second type of paper, which people really seem to have problems with. No. If you are not good at it, do it. Challenge yourself. Anyway, the second type of paper is try something. So maybe on Facebook, share with you an article, and you can read it if it looks interesting. And then after you've read it, you can just summarize it in your own words. I was reading this paper about, the domestication of cats. And this is basically what it had to say. And here's my source. That makes sense? And again, you're in control of how long you want it to be. So if you start writing something and it's really interesting and you feel like you can keep on writing, then keep on writing. Or if you start writing something like, well, this is a lot more boring than I thought it would be, I'm just going to end the paper here. Then you can do that. Does that make sense? Okay. That's what you do. Turn in papers. Turn them in constantly. All the time, right? Think of something. Write. Your purpose here, mathematically anyway, overall is to hit 100 points. You have until 10 weeks. Well, technically you have 11 weeks as of Sunday to get 100 points then. And that could be you turning in one awesome 10-page paper, or it could be you turning in, 10 shorter one-page papers, or 20 half-page papers, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Just keep going until you hit 100 points. That should be your focus. If one of you hits 100 points this weekend, then you're done for the semester. Once you hit 100 points, you hit 100 points. Hopefully you get it done before the due date, which is, again, in 11 weeks. But as soon as you're done, then you're done. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing, and you guys have already raised your hand, so if you're a student athlete, you really know where I'm coming from here. I have to do progress reports, right? You guys will give me the sheets, like, hey, what's my points? So because of that, to figure out what your grade is throughout the semester, not only do you need 100 points in 11 weeks, but also you need 10 points every week to get there. Does that make sense? So, and not this Sunday won't be your first due date because we just started, but starting next Sunday, it'll be like, all right, you should have had 10 points this week. And then after that, it's like, all right, you should have had 10 more points. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, don't focus necessarily on how long the paper is, because you say, all right, I want to get this many points for the paper. Don't worry about it. Just write your papers, turn them in. Short, long, it doesn't matter. And there's no, it doesn't matter how many papers you turn in. You can keep going until you hit 100. So if you turn one in and it just really sucked, and I wrote back, yeah, you're getting half credit. This is wrong, whatever. I'm not going to be that mean about it. But if you do turn in something that's really horrible and you barely get any points, it doesn't matter. You just keep turning stuff in until you hit 100 points. There is no minimum. There is no maximum. You just keep going until you hit 100. So that's why I said that's completely in your control. Even if you write complete garbage and you really hate to write and you don't get full credit every time you turn something in, you can still hit 100 points. It'll just be more work for you. Okay? All right. So really, honestly, start working now. Actually, for those of you who are on the Facebook group already, and I'll tell you this for the rest of you now, to give you an incentive to start working. Actually, let me say one more thing. Sorry. Where's it at? Generally speaking, and you'll get this through your through trial and error. Generally speaking, when you turn in a paper double spaced, it's worth about 10 points per page. So perfectly written paper is worth about 10 points per page. You might lose a few points for this, that, and the other thing. But generally speaking, it's 10 points per page. Yeah, that's it. And again, if you make mistakes, I'll let you know what mistakes they were, and you just fix that moving forward. Make sure you use sources, right? So you have to have a source. Please don't try to cheat. It could be a time-consuming assignment, but it's not hard. right? Just write something, find something you're interested in and write about it. Short paper, long paper, it's up to you. But don't cheat. You will get caught. Don't do plagiarism. Don't use AI. Don't even use AI to rewrite your stuff. Like I'll do that sometimes professionally. If I'm sending an email to my colleagues, I'll write it and then I'll have AI rewrite it so it's, sounds better. But this is not an English class. I don't care that much about your grammar. So don't feel like you need to rewrite things to make it look perfect. I'm not that picky when it comes to that. Just write it yourself. Don't use AI to write it or rewrite it, because I have an AI detector. And if it shows that you used AI, then I'm going to be really, 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 really picky on your paper. If AI wrote it, then I expect there to be 0 mistakes, right? If you wrote it, I might point a mistake out, but you didn't lose points for this, but here's a mistake. But if it shows that AI wrote it, I'm like, well, you lost a lot of points for this. But anyway, any questions about independent work? 10 points per page. Oh, yeah, that's what I was getting at. For now, and I don't know for how long, but to incentivize you guys to get started early, the papers are going to be worth 20 points per page as of right now. So worth double. So if you were to work really hard, in theory, if you wrote perfect papers, you could write 5-page paper and be done this weekend. Or whatever, I don't know how long that offer is going to last, but yes, right now it's worth 20 points. So now's the time to start writing papers. At least write one, because one more thing and I'll be done with talking about on independent work. The big mistake a lot of people make for some stupid reason is they'll wait until the end to do it. And then by then it's too late. And they'll turn in something that they think is good. And I'm like, that was pretty good, but you lost points for this, lost points for that, lost points for this. And you actually turned in 70 points worth of work. And now it's too late. And now you don't have the 100 points. So start doing it now so you can learn how I grade and learn, the mistakes to avoid through trial and error. Any questions about independent work?
You said in the description up there, it says not including title page, quotes, pictures, or references.
Yep.
Do we need to include pictures in every single one of our papers or something?
Good question. No, you definitely don't need to include pictures at all. You can if you want. Very few times you'll be required to. So for example, one of you might be going to the Columbus Zoo in April and be like, hey, I'm going to the Columbus Zoo and I want to get some extra credit for that. I'm like, all right, well, here's what you can do. Write a paper about it, include some pictures as proof that you were there, and you can get extra credit. So in that situation, I'll let you know if I require a picture. Generally, no, you don't require a picture. So if you're writing a paper about cats and you love cats and want to throw a bunch of cute little kitten pictures in there, feel free. But those won't count towards your how many points it's worth. So good question.
And then title page, it's not some cover page or anything like that. It's
Exactly, right.
Okay.
So title pages, these are great questions. Title pages, some people do them, some people don't. I don't care. If you do it, that's not going to count towards how long your paper is. Because obviously, again, like I've already said, it's worth however long it is. So I don't count the title page. I don't count quotes. You can use quotes. You don't have to. You won't get penalized for using quotes. But when I count how long your paper is, if it's in quotation marks, I don't count it. Of course, if you stole it from somewhere else and didn't put quotation marks on it, that's plagiarism, then you get 0. But it's a great question. References, again, you do have to have references. But again, that portion won't count. Does that make sense? All right. And again, going back to what I said earlier, this is why I want you to start this week. Write a paper, short little paper. Think of some biology-related question and answer it. Why do Brussels sprouts taste so bad? Whatever. Think of a question, write it, answer it. Anyway, any other questions about independent work? All right, like I said, the ball's in your court. Also, one last thing, sorry. Like I said, 100 points is what it's worth. But if you go over 100 points, anything past 100 points is considered extra credit. Any questions? Oh, yeah, then there's all these rules, but you don't need to worry about this either. 12-point, double spaced, all that. As you write the papers, I'm going to tell you that. I'll fix the font for you and say, hey, you need to do it this way and that way. You won't lose points for it, but I don't want to tell you all about it now because you can just learn it as you go through trial and error. All right, so if there's no more questions about that, let's move forward. We're almost done. Late work. So if you had my 108 class, this should be very familiar to you. Officially, late work is not accepted. If you miss it, it's a 0. That's my official stance. So if we need to, we can revert back to that. But unofficially, if you do something late, if you didn't do something, just do it. Turn it in. Don't even ask me. Like, hey, I missed this. Can I still turn it in? Just turn it in. Matter of fact, you're better doing that with almost any professor. Instead of saying, hey, can I turn this in? Just turn it in. And, if they'll give you credit for it, they will. If they won't, they won't. But it looks better for you if you just did it. You just went ahead and said, hey, I went ahead and did it. I know it's late, but I did it. That sounds better than can I? So anyway, officially, you can't turn work in late. Unofficially, if it's late, just do it. Also with labs, with pre-labs and labs, generally speaking, I'm a lot looser in this class than I am with the other class because we're in person. So with labs and pre-labs specifically, as long as it's done before I get around to grading it, I consider that on time. So your pre-labs are due on Sunday night, right before midnight. If I don't get around to grading the pre-labs until Monday afternoon, as long as you have it turned in before Monday afternoon, I consider that on time. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. That's the best way to look at it is officially late work is not accepted. Unofficially, I'm telling you, if you miss something, just turn it in. And the reason I'm have this officially, unofficially, I don't want to put it in writing that I will accept late work because some people will and do take it to the edge and at the end of the semester with the last weekend, like, hey, can I turn in all these assignments? Like, no, you can't. I don't have time to grade them. So again, if you miss work, turn it in. The sooner it is, the later it is, the worse it is, right? So if you miss something, just go ahead and turn it in late. That's your best bet. Also, and this is a lot like the 101, 108 course. Speaking of late work, I recommend getting started early. At least get started early. Like if a lab's due on, the pre-lab's due on Sunday, go ahead and look at it now. That way do I need to get a new computer? Or that makes no sense. I better ask them about that before the weekend. Does that make sense? Start early. All right, student expectations, we've already talked about this. So really quickly, I'll just remind you. You're required to participate. So like I said, technically, generally speaking, when you show up, you get your participation points. I'm going to try to talk to you. I want this to be a conversation instead of me just talking at you. It usually doesn't work. I keep trying. One semester, maybe this is the semester I'll get it where we can have conversations instead of me talking at you. But yeah, please try to participate. But at the very least, do what I tell you, right? Do the assignments, do your reading assignments before you come in. Pay attention while you're here. Like we already talked about, you need to be here to get your points. Be here on time. Come in late if you need to. It's better than being absent, I guess. But when you do it quietly. Like someone came in late earlier. Perfect way to do it. Just kind of slid in. They weren't loud. So if you're going to come in late, do it that way. Also, speaking of which, if you come in late, make sure you send me an email after class and say, hey, I came in late. Because I've already taken roll. So I'm not going to remember that you came in. Anyway, speaking of which, the third word for attendance today, for those of you online or those of you in person who want to get a small amount of extra credit, the third word for attendance will be points. So for that one person who's watching live right now, when we're done with the lecture, send in the email with the words. And that's the third one I've given you. Send those in. Or if you're watching this video later, send those words in for your points. Any questions about that? Like I already said, read the textbook before you come in. It's free. It's online. There's no reason you shouldn't check it. I'm really big on this, as you already know if you've had me before. Regularly check your emails and the announcements. At the very least, because there's a lot of extra credit out there. A lot of times I'll post something and be like, hey, if you read this, reply back and get some extra credit. So stay on top of it. I like to communicate. Any questions about that? Okay, exams. Again, you'll have 50 minutes to take 50 questions. If you need more time than that, let me know. If we can find a time to meet online, the two of us, where your camera is on and your mic is on and you're sharing your screen so I can ensure that you're taking closed book exam. I don't care how long it takes you. It take you hours to take an exam. I don't care. As long as I know you're not looking up the answers, I don't care how long it takes you. So if you want more time than 50 minutes, let me know. And of course, when it comes time to take an exam, I'll remind you of this. But also, yeah, so that's unofficial proctoring, right? Then you can read all this. It'll show you how you can get official university proctoring, but you don't need to do that if you don't want. You can just do it through me. It's free and it's easier. Where are we at? So this portion of the syllabus, here and up, the stuff that we just covered, that was your first assignment. Just read everything we just covered. Here down, you do not need to read. This is the stuff that's in everyone's syllabus except this right here. So I'm going to skip all the way down. So again, all this stuff I'm skipping, you don't need to read if you don't want to, because it's in everyone's syllabus. Here we go. Tentative test course schedule. This is very, very tentative. But if you go to the bottom of the syllabus, you can see what the tentative schedule is, right? You can see the week and what we should be covering that week, which week we're gonna have an exam, what lab we're gonna do that week. It's all right there at the end. And again, it's all very tentative. So don't think, unfortunately, you can't plan ahead like you can with 108. You can't say, all right, I'm gonna take my kid on a trip, but I have an exam on the 29th, on the week of the 29th, so I won't do the trip until the week of the 5th. And then it might turns out that the exam is on the week of the 5th. So don't plan on any of this, but that's your tentative schedule. Any questions about anything? Awesome. So what we'll do is we'll meet again Friday, 8 a.m., same place, and we're going to start chapter 1. So make sure if you haven't gotten an email from me, check your emails. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're done. And for the person that came in late, make sure you email me and tell me that you came in late. And thank you all for coming in this horrible cold weather. 8 in the morning.
I think I got the fall break syllabus.
Oh, interesting.
I checked the course schedule. And
Yes.
There's Thanksgiving 8.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from?
I believe I got it from Moodle.
Okay, good. That's fine. So what happened is they put the wrong one up,
Mhm.
and I updated it. So if you go now, you should get
Well,
the.
I can't right now. There's no internet right here. I don't.
Oh, interesting.
Mine keeps turning on, off, on, off, on,
Oh,
off.
never mind.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, it keeps flickering. I'm getting
Oh.
no clue why.
Well, it's technology for you. But anyway, yes. So it should be there. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, whenever you do get a chance, take a look. If it's still not,
I'll
let me know. Because on my end, it is the correct versions. But yeah, let me know.
But I downloaded mine right when they got on Moodle. So.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so that's
So-
probably what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I want to know, who can I talk to about a wet specimen? I got one that was first put in its jar in the 80s,
Wow.
and it's a fawn, whitetail fawn.
Oh,
Problem
cool.
is the fluid inside is starting to get a bit yellowish, and I cannot remove the lid because I can see that it's starting to rust, and I think it's starting to evaporate on the inside.
Oh, yep. When you came in, which way did you come from? The front door or the parking lot? Which way?
Front door.
Okay. So when you come in the front door, there's like an office to your right, and then there's like an office kind of to your left, where the hallway does that.
Mhm.
And I can show you some other time if you want. But that is the core lab. This guy there, Doug. Chris will say his name on the door. If you knock on that door, that guy, he handles that stuff. He's glad to help you.
All right, because I love that thing, and I'd rather not have it, end up ruined because of that.
I'd really like to see it. So if you ever bring it in to have him look at it, let me know if you can. Let me know beforehand. I'd like to see it.
I live over in Dunbar. I'm
Oh,
only 7
cool.
minutes away,
Oh,
so I
that's
could
cool.
easily drive that down whenever.
Yeah, well, you should bring it to some lab sometime. I think that would be interesting.
If I can find a way to. The jar itself is